what are some of your main things that spring to mind when I ask about nutrition misconceptions? What nutrition misconceptions are there out there in the world?
So, I mean, I suppose the first is that you need loads of supplements to be healthy. And actually, if you're eating, pretty varied and balanced diet, the only supplement really that you need in the UK is vitamin D. So we need vitamin D. You're in the UK right now, between like September and March, 10 micrograms, which is also written as 10 UG, 10 MCG. Some people need it all year round, pregnancy, breastfeeding, babies, and also folic acid if you're thinking about having a baby or if you are indeed pregnant. So all these weird and wonderful supplements, if you've got, for example, enough protein in the diet, you don't need a protein powder. Having said that though, if you are highly active and you've done a food diary and you're not, for example, having at least 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight a day, maybe adding in a supplement, scoop of whey protein or vegan plant-based blend is advantageous. But you don't need all these superfood greens and things like that. Hit your 5 a day, 5 handfuls of fruit and or veg, and your 30 different plant-based foods a week. So that's another misconception that, for example, like gut health is really complicated. Actually, it's about what are you adding in rather than taking away. And aiming for 30 different plant-based foods a week is a great starting point. And that encompasses not only fruits and veg, but your whole grains, nuts, seeds, and plant-based proteins like your beans and your pulses. And actually, top tip, different colors count towards those plant-based points. So for example, a red pepper counts as a point, and yellow pepper and green pepper, because they contain different plant chemicals that support our health.
Oh, I love that. I think that's very clear as well to look at your plate and count all the colors, and that helps because it is those little things that people just get a bit, oh my goodness, what is this? What am I looking at? And I want to ask a bit about like your journey with health and diet, and obviously you're at the point now where you're working as a dietitian, so you're in a hospital, is it that you work in throughout the week? But then you also are really active on social media. You've written a book, you know, Penguin approached you to write the book. That's quite overwhelming in lots of different areas. You're kind of being pulled at every different string, which is amazing to be able to do. But how has that journey been? It could be quite overwhelming. And I kind of think about, when someone would post online saying they're vegan, and then suddenly if they post anything that could potentially not be vegan, people call them out and say, oh my goodness, I thought you were vegan. It's that kind of criticizing that like with 0.5% out of a whole diet and that sort of thing. How has that been?
As a dietitian, I don't often talk about kind of like what I eat. However, I'd call myself a flexitarian. So I do eat meat and fish, but I'm trying to eat more of a plant-based diet. My son has got various food allergies, dairy, eggs, soy, and nuts. So that's quite compromised already. So I don't try to complicate it or compromise it further. So I did my undergrad degree in sports science, and I went to see a careers advisor, and I said, look, I'm interested in nutrition. I love the power of food because I had quite bad skin growing up. And she basically told me about what a dietitian it was. And I had never heard of one before. I shadowed one. And so I did my postgraduate diploma at Leeds. I also did an MSc whilst I was working. And yeah, so I worked for the NHS for 14 years. And throughout that time, I qualified in 2009, started my website in 2012, and then slowly just started putting stuff out on social media. I just trying to combat misinformation, and it kind of grew from there. And I started working privately for Ramsay Healthcare in bariatrics, which is where I am now. I work clinically in weight loss surgery. I actually left the NHS last year just because when you've got like 2 kids and you're working like 3 different jobs, like something had to give. I left the NHS. I now still work clinically a couple of days a week, and then the rest of the time, yeah. So I'm really privileged in that. Like, work from home, I work with brands, I write articles, create content. Obviously, like, I'm promoting my book, I get to speak to wonderful people like you. And it's really enjoyable. And I think throughout my time, I've always just maintained putting out evidence-based content, and trying to fight misinformation and just making it really practical. And also, I think I'm quite grounded in that. I'll have some Ben and Jerry's on a Friday night. I don't lead a 100% healthy diet or lifestyle. There are some days that, that I might not go for a walk, might not do my 10,000 steps, because life gets in the way. So I understand. So that's why the advice that I give is hopefully quite practical, and it's not meant to be ever overwhelming.